Hi, I am a farmer in the United States, and for the past 20 years, I've used QuickBooks Desktop to do my bookkeeping for the farm. Um, but I've several, had to buy several versions. Usually, the program lasts as long as the computers do. The last one we bought was 8 years ago, and we paid about $199, I think, for it, and it lasted 8 years. So if you divide that up, it's about $25 a year. Um, my computer pretty much gave up the ghost, and uh, I figured it was time to do another one, and I guess I hadn't been paying attention, and QuickBooks no longer has a desktop version, and you can only get the online version. And I had a little sticker shock when I went to look at it, and because, like I said, you divide that 200, you get $25 a year for using the desktop version. And I just looked it up, and once you get past your 3 months of half price, you're paying $35 a month, or over 400 dollars a year, $420 a year, even for the base version. I think that's probably all I would need, but still, it's going from $25 a year to $420 a year. Um, my farm really doesn't make that much money where that made economic sense for me. Anyhow, um, it just I decide, well, there's got to be a different way. Uh, like I said, QuickBooks Desktop, and I imagine QuickBooks Online and everything. It's kind of nice because, like I said, we used to pay a lot of bills with checks and everything, but over the past 20 years, last few years especially, we've gone to almost 90% of our expenses, including utilities and other things, are paid with credit card. And it's kind of easy to get a download of your credit card statement and CSV style files and stuff like that. So I thought that I'd go online and look about what kind of things you could do to you know do that, and just put your credit card information, download it, and maybe add it into like an expense account, a spreadsheet for expenses, and then another spreadsheet for incomes. Um, we do our depreciation and stuff like that by hand already, anyhow. Uh, so QuickBooks really wasn't handling that for me. Same way, I didn't pay for desktop payroll, and I'm not going to add on payroll here. I don't even know what it would cost to add on, so I certainly wasn't going to do that. And so we just write the checks and do all the tax forms and deposits, by hand anyhow, so it really didn't matter. But so I thought to myself, yeah, 90% of my transactions are going to be in CSV form, and I've I'm doing this in April, and I've already found out that it's much easier. I can download the credit card statement and put it into the expense thing, and tweak the columns that I need to tweak, and it automatically adds up your monthly expenses and everything like that for you. So uh, it's working out. Um, I do subscribe, I have well, I don't even know what they call it now, the Microsoft Excel or whatever. I have the Office suite that I pay for yearly, but I decided to do Google because I wanted to try to automate some things, and I saw that Google Script is a way to automate things. Um, if you see the other videos on my channel, you'll see that I have been a hobby coder for more than a decade, learning C++, Arduino, playing with Arduinos and things like that. And more recently, I've learned Python and MicroPython. And I've also, in the past, I dabbled with JavaScript and HTML and everything. And uh, I'm certainly not an expert in any of it, but I can pretty much follow code in most of the languages that I look at and everything. And so I figured, let's see what we can do about automating some of these things. One of the things that we do on the farm here is we get in flats of, we have a commercial greenhouse, a 1 acre commercial greenhouse, and we get in flats of plants with just baby plants in them. They call them plugs, already potted in the potting soil. And we get them into our greenhouse, 22,000 flats of them or something. It takes to fill up our greenhouse. And we take care of them for 8 to 10 weeks, however long it takes them to grow to full size. And then we ship them back out tractor trailer load at a time. So uh, we don't have to track inventory because it's just inputs and outputs. So I'm not really worried about inventory, but we record the plants coming in and then, uh, but the plants going out, I have to invoice the company that I sell them to. They're going out. And that's I wanted to come up with a way to uh, automate that. Um, I found that QuickBooks, even desktop QuickBooks, that it was a little tedious, a lot of clicking through things to get all the fields and the uh, filled out when you're making an invoice and everything. And like I said, it's a general program for a lot of different things, and I use it for just doing one type of invoice, and our invoices always look the same and everything. We get one PO number for the year, and so we don't have to worry about that. So uh, it's pretty simple. We have a couple distribution centers that we ship our plants to, and then they get uh, uh, taken to uh, end up into Home Depots in the Mid-Atlantic region here. But anyhow, that's enough about that. But um, I said, well, the invoices would be good if I could figure out a way to automate that. And of course, YouTube to the rescue, I guess, is what you could call this. And uh, I found I found I probably looked at several dozen, maybe not that many, a dozen at least videos on how to do certain things with invoices and input forms and stuff like that, and storing data and all that. I am by far a novice spreadsheet user, so I actually had to find it and learn how to do all the uh, calculations and the actual, the if statements to, if you got something, if you got a blank space that you don't do the multiplication and stuff like that when you're doing the spreadsheet and everything. And so I had to get that up and going. And like I said, it was a learning process, but not too bad at all. Just the documentation's pretty straightforward on that and everything. So, like I said, my process was to go from a input data form, store the information on the spreadsheet with the calculations, where you extend, if I have 1,000 flats times price per each, and then you extend that out, and then you're going to, if you have two or three or four different kinds of plants that you're going to total it up. And then we have a merchandising fee that we have and it's always 5% off the invoice that uh, it's a discount to the company for merchandising our product. And like I said, that's all I'll ever do with it. And so I designed it specifically for that. But anyhow, that's basically what we did. And I going from, like I say, a form to storing it on a spreadsheet and then I wanted to be able to get automatically fill in a invoice form. And like I said, there's three three different files here, and each one of them had a little bit to go for what I ended up wanting to do, but they none of them took you all the way through it, and that's why I'm making this video because I thought, you know, somebody could tweak my idea or my code and just you know I think there's a lot of people that might want to just be able to do what I'm doing with it. And like I said, I don't know whether I'll make any more videos, but I've, this is just the basics of going from a data form to getting an invoice out the door, printable invoice. And it was kind of fun process, so I thought I'd document what I did it. So let's see, maybe I'll get to, let's see. So this is what my invoices kind of look like when they're going out the door. It's just my farm name is Lomar Greenhouses and the address. I don't know. And we ship it to this Bell Nursery Company, and there's, like I say, two different distribution centers. Have a PO box that a PO number that we always use for the whole year, and everything's net 30 days. This is one of our input things. We got the date and our invoice number. And our invoice numbers, if you notice, I always start like the year, like 25. I'll do 2501 will be the first invoice of the year. Um, I haven't actually invoiced any plants yet. I've been still just testing this, and this is just happened to be one of them that came up that I had. And like I said, this is a drop down box thing that we have to fill out, and then the quantity and a product name, and then like I say, I have a sheet that does the uh, has the prices on it, and then you extend the prices, subtotal, take off the merchandising fee, and do that, and that's all you have to do. So let's see. This is the actual spreadsheets or whatever. So um, I have our plant list. So this is just one of my sheets that I have. This is all the plants that we uh, are going to have for 2025. We get a spreadsheet with this information on it. So I was able to copy and paste the forms here, and they tell us the price that we're going to get charged coming in, and then the other company tells you what you're going to do going out. And one of the important things is the SKU that they want for going out. So anyhow, that's something that yeah, that we have to worry about with that and everything. But like I said, but then I can refer to this table when I uh, get these, and then I make a drop down out of these uh, uh, different types of plants, and then I'm able to have the price come in, and I'm able to transfer the SKU for that to the invoice. So we have, like I said, you saw what was on the invoice where you had the price and the extended price and SKU and all that stuff. And that really, like I said, when you fill out something on QuickBooks, all that information is kind of just added in and you can adjust it and everything. And this is kind of, I like this better because it's just simple. This is the only information I need. And like I say, it's a ship to place, the date, like I say, the item number is a drop down. And actually, I can go ahead and fill one in. Like I say, we haven't actually gone and sold anything, so I'm going to go and clear out all the data on these anyhow. So we got two different ones. One's in Virginia, one's in Maryland. And then the date, of course, I set this up as a date field. So if you double click it, it brings up a calendar. So I can pick the day's date, which is usually I'll be making them making the invoice the day I make it. So that'll be good. And then you can do the drop down and get what you want. So if I'm going to ship out 6-inch Vinca, and I'm going to ship out 1,000 of them, and then, like I said, um, I have a clear thing where it's going to clear the thing. And I'll just show you that it just runs a script and clears it. Although, oh, I know why this one didn't, because I never entered it in. That is one thing that I haven't been able to figure out how to do is, let me show you how this works. So we'll choose Marigold this time. So if you put 1,000 in here, you would think that that's an accepted number there, but it's not. You have to either hit enter or, arrow down or something like that for it to accept that. So if I, so I, I also have in the script code, I have that you have to have these four fields filled out. Um, a lot of my invoices will only have a whole truckload of the same kind of flour, but a lot of times there might be three or four or five. So I left up to six kinds of flours. I can't think of any time I've ever had more than six kinds of flours on the same truck. And if I do, I'll just make two invoices for it, so it won't be that big a deal. Anyhow, I haven't actually hit enter or anything on this one. So if I try to go to save this, it tells you required inputs because I didn't enter this yet, so it's not picking up as a required one. So I go back and then I have to just hit the enter button, and now it's entered, and now I can save it. Actually, I'll go back to the outgoing, so this is where it's stored. This is like my database for the invoices. And you can see I got 14 invoices, and you can see that uh, actually I got 13 invoices because the first line is the other one. You can see I got 13 invoices, and you'll see that when I do my code, I'll come back here and it should have the next one. So I'll hit save now, and it takes a little bit to run the script. Anyhow, so it's the script is actually taking my data from that input uh, form. It puts it into that spreadsheet database that I just showed you, and then it actually transfers it over to an invoice. And you can see that, I 1,000 marigolds and then $9.09. I didn't have to do any of the calculations or anything like that. It automatically did that in our invoice. Um, and at this point, you could just print the invoice, go to File, Print, and you can print your invoice and give it to your trucker on the way out the door, and he's good to go. So I'm not going to waste paper on that, but it's kind of cool that you can actually bring it up. Like I said, it takes a few seconds. I think I counted like 5 seconds that time, or maybe even a little bit more to do that. I have to close this. I got to get myself out of the way. So you X out of this to close it. And anyhow, and after I also have it so that it goes back and clears the screen after you're done as well. But we'll go back to that outgoing, and you'll see that now I have a 14th invoice, and it's for 1,000 marigolds. And because of the um, information that's in here, like I said, it brings in the SKU from that plant list thing. Um, and then it does the math for this. So this is the um, multiplies this times this and gives you that. And then all the way at the end. And you can see why the form is important, because I have 36 characters along here. I did a one invoice where I filled in all six uh, rows of field, but then you come out here and you got the 9,000, and we're taking off that, and that's what we do. And but I wanted to have enough fields, enough rows of things that I could do six, get. be pretty sure that I wouldn't have to have him over. But you could see where if you had to fill in this invoice all the way across, then it would be a little daunting and maybe prone to errors. But when I created this invoice, it also gives you a link to that invoice. So if I ever need to go back and refer to that invoice, there's a folder that's in my Google Drive that has 2025 invoices. That's the only thing that should be in there, and it does that. So it's kind of cool the way that works. So we'll kind of get to the code. I guess, wait a minute, before we do that, we'll talk about this. Uh, this is a template that we have. So to make the invoice, it the code actually just uses find and replace is what it does. So um, we use our headings that we have. So I have a date heading and an invoice number heading. So this has to be exactly what the heading is because of the way it's coded. And um, we could use anything, but this is just one of the details that one of the videos showed that they just use this double curly bracket, open and close. That it's something that you wouldn't see in a regular document. So if it looks for this with the date in between it, it knows, okay, that's the field I'm looking for, and I can do that. And like I said, I have the find and replace does the date, the invoice to ship to. Nothing in this one, and nothing, my name doesn't change and the top part doesn't change. But then you got, your quantity of items, the SKU you want to bring in, the product for those, the each, and then the amount. And like I say, all this is calculated not here, it's calculated over on the database spreadsheet. Same way subtotal, merchandising fee, and total, they're all just brought in from that uh, database spreadsheet that doing all the calculations for each invoice. So I guess next thing to do is go to the code. So kind of interesting. Like I said, Google Script is using JavaScript, maybe a library based on JavaScript, but it's all JavaScript code. And it was it's pretty interesting, because this is C++ has the semicolon at the end and everything and the functions. There's a few differences, but it was pretty easy to use the examples to come up with the correct code to do this. So we'll go down the functions here. So the first one I did was the clear form. That was that green form that we're doing. And you can tie those buttons, the clear and the save are buttons that you can draw on your form. And when you click on them, you can tie it to a function in your script. So that's the, the clear form function just does this thing here, which basically I put a list. I guess I'm in Python now. I guess it's an array, a one-dimensional array of the cells that we have to clear. And the first thing you do is you say get active spreadsheet, so it knows which one that your buttons on, and we're calling that SS. And then you're finding what, your sheets have different sheets down at the bottom. So it's the invoice input sheet in that spreadsheet, set of spreadsheets. And then, like I say, this is the cells that we want to clear. And then we just do a for loop to go through the length of the cells to clear. And we just do the SS form, which is our input form, and we clear out each cell and it just clears the content on it. Simple to go through that. So then next thing we have to do is the save button. So that's the rest of this code down here. And uh, there's several points to it, but it's pretty straightforward. I'll see if I can do a halfway job of explaining it to people. So we're saving the data. Um, and we're doing the same thing as we did up here, where you're getting the active sheet. And then this one, because we're dealing in this function with two different things. We're dealing with the invoice input, and we're taking that data and putting it in the outgoing, uh, what I call my database spreadsheet. And it has a different name. So we got SS form and SS outgoing is how just variable names, so that it makes it easier to refer to them later in your code. I was talking about we have that required data with it has the ship to, the date, and at least one product and one quantity. So they are the required cells. So it's another array of required cells. And then we're just looping through that. And if one of them is blank, then we're doing this is how you do like an alert on your thing. So you just it's spreadsheet.getUI, and we call it the variable UI, and then UI.alert. And um, we are and then we make this alert required cell required inputs that you've seen that alert come up when I didn't enter the 1,000 quantity that we didn't have, and it just tells you that, and then you get an OK button. And what happens is once if any of those is blank, it means it's not a valid input, not a valid. So we're not going to keep going. So we're just going to return out of that and uh, re, basically break out of our function and go back to the spreadsheet and not finish anything else up. But if at least those four are done, and you could have others as well. And that's not perfect, because you could have like later on you could have a product but no amount, and you could have amounts but no product. So some of the uh, uh, could end up with problems if you don't fill it out. And I might try to do something with that to get air checking a little bit better in that. But since I'm the only one that usually does the spreadsheet, makes the invoices, I think I'll be okay with it. So the next thing we need to do is, like I said, we're going to transfer the uh, data from our form, all the cells from our form, and this is all the cells in our form. Because that form is actually just a spreadsheet with the grid disappeared and a little bit of color on it, and like I say, the two buttons added to it. So it's just a spreadsheet. So you're still referring to them as, a letter and number to identify what cell they're in. And then we also, like I said, we're that's the form cells. And we also have the same number quantity of cells that we're going to put that data into on our database spreadsheet. But like I say, it's not one right after the other, because like I say, you got the quantity and then you got the extensions and all that you have to do. So I had to go through and figure out like the which cell in the form correlated with what cell on the spreadsheet. And of course, the spreadsheet, it's going to keep having several different rows on it and everything. So this is actually just the column numbers, and I'll show you where we get the rows at before. The next thing I have to do is this is finding the first open row. Um, the Google script has something called get last row, but it'll tell you what the last row with data or formulas. And since I wanted all my formulas carried all the way through 50, or I won't ever make more than 50 invoices in a year, so I just made the formulas go down 50 lines. And so um, but the formulas are there. So when I just tried to get last cell and then you add one to it to have that means that's the first empty cell. It ended up putting it all the way at the bottom because it didn't count the it counts the formulas as rows, even though you don't have any data in those rows yet. So I have to do this other thing where you get the range, like I think C is my invoice number thing, and if the value, or maybe it's date, it probably is date. We can go look, I guess. Let's go look. So outgoing. C is the date. Yeah, there we go. So C is the date. So we're getting all the values in that column. So, and then what you're doing is you're just stepping through those in a while loop this time. And a while loop, I found a blurb of code at probably at Stack Exchange or something that was showing how to because other people have had this problem where the formulas make the get last cell doesn't work. So I found this blurb and it was only a couple lines of code. I just copy and paste it in and change it to suit my spreadsheets. And you're looking to make sure that you have a valid numbers, that you haven't run out of numbers in your values is a two-dimensional array of, even though it's only one column, you could actually pick two or three columns. So it's a two-dimensional array because it's thinking you want to deal with a spreadsheet. So as long as it's in the spreadsheet, and like I said, since we only got one column, it's going to be index 0 is not equal to blank, then we're just going to keep going. So this will keep going until it finds the uh, next one. It's going to hit, it's going to add one to it, count one to it, and it's going to keep doing that. But when the count is blank, it's going to break out of the while loop. So the count is, we're going to have to add one to it to get to the next line. So our row number that we're going to use to place our cells is going to be on that one. Now we're going to transfer the data from our spreadsheet to from our input form to our spreadsheet. So we're just doing another for loop, and we're doing it for the length of this, either one of these. They both have the same length, so it's the length of F cells. And we're going through and we're stepping through all of them, and you're just doing this get range, you're getting the value and then setting the value, getting the value from the form and setting the value in the row that we found, empty row that we found. And these are the cells that we are filling. So we're not filling all cells next to each other. It's 4, 6, 11, and 16. So again, it's just one for loop to set them up for that and one line of code. So that's kind of cool. Then we have to get into, now we have that's transferred from our form to our database spreadsheet. Now we want to take all that row of data and create a new invoice document based on the data in that row. So we have to, this is your get field by ID. This is the field of the invoice template that I showed with the curly braces things on it. And this is the folder where all the invoices are stored. I don't know if I have actually, yeah, it just, Lomar Greenhouses 2025 and invoices 2025. So, and the I should say that the number that we're using is this number here. So you can see it starts at 1XP. So let's go down to our code and you can see that, the folder name starts at 1XP. So um, you're getting it by ID, which is, the Google ID for that folder. And this is the document ID of the template document with all the curly braces in it. So that way we can refer to them just by variable names. So we want to call you might have noticed that all our invoices are called invoice space with the uh, invoice number on them. And the invoice number, that's controlled on that spreadsheet by just adding one to your invoice, the previous invoice number in your spreadsheet, doing, the cell calculations in that. So we're looking at the outgoing where that's already been done, and it's the row that we're on, and it's column 2 is the invoice number, and we're just getting that value. And let's see, this is where we're getting the headings. So all the headings, remember that our template has the heading name exactly uh, case sensitive as the things with just the double curly braces on it. And that's, like I say, that's the first row starting at the second column and going 36 columns wide by one column deep or one row deep. So we're getting the values of that. Like I said, again, this is expecting to get possibly a 2D array. So we're just using the um, zero index of that array. So we're getting the first values, and that just flattens the array basically. And then our row data is our row, and it's the same thing. It starts at the 2 and it goes uh, one row, 36 columns over, and it's getting this time, instead of getting the values, we're getting display values. The the difference here is that any of your formatting you do for like 2 decimal places for uh, you know, dollar amounts. If you set it up as currency, I don't like using currency in my spreadsheets. So if you set it up for currency, it would show the dollar sign or whatever currency sign you use. But this, if by using display value, it pulls in the formatting of that cell as well. So that's the cool thing about that. And then we're just making a copy. So you take your invoice copy that we have this invoice template thing up here, and we're calling it copy. So we're taking invoice template, we're saying make a copy, and we're putting it and we're naming it invoice space, and then we're stringing the invoice number, and that's what we're calling it. And then we're creating it into making the copy and putting it into the invoice folder. So at this point, after this line of code, you have a document that you can manipulate, but it looks exactly like the template, but it's a copy of it. So I just called it copy. And then what you're doing is you're opening that document copy and by get ID. So that's our document. So then we can manipulate that document by document.getBody, and then it's called body. And then we can manipulate everything in there by replace. So we're just for looping through the where was this? We got the headings. That's right. We got the headings, which are all the names of our headings. And then our row data, we're getting the 36 values there. So like I said, this is a 36 value flattened array, one-dimensional array, and this is a 36 value element data array. So what we're doing is we're replacing the heading I. So we're going through it and we're replacing it with the row data I. And if you notice that we're looking for the double curly brackets plus the heading and the individual heading ID, and then the ending with the curly brackets. So you got to add all this in there to get the curly brackets. And it just, that one line of code just takes all of it and updates your template invoice to the real data in it. So that wasn't too hard at all. And then we're just saving, closing that document. And then we're also, then we get that URL for that document. So this is the URL. And see, and you can see that I I made this row short on purpose. I mean, this URL is probably this long. I think if I click on it, I can get it to show. Maybe not. That's probably going to try to open it up. Anyhow, it's a long URL, but I didn't need to see it. I just needed to be able to click on it if I needed to do that. Um, but that's where we're doing that, and let's see, save and close. We're getting the URL, and we're putting it whatever row we were on, which is carried through from here, and it's just the first column, and we're setting the value to URL. And this is where, like I said, after everything's done, because all this happened when we hit the save button on the form. So even though we were hitting the save button on the form, it was manipulating moving data from the form to the database spreadsheet. And then from the database spreadsheet, it was creating a invoice document, filling it out and doing all that. But we're still working from the invoice uh, data entry page. So we're clearing that form, like I said, so we can do a second invoice, or the next time we come up, it'll be clear. And then I looked around a lot and I kept thinking, there's got to be a way of doing this and everything. And I found a lot of, I didn't find this on any video. I found it finally, Stack Exchange to the rescue again. I finally found out that, okay, I also went to Google Scripts has good documentation, but they don't cover everything that you want to do. And if it's the searching in Google documents is the Google Script documentation isn't doesn't usually bring up what or hasn't been successful so much for me. Google has been great for me as far as trying to find these things, and like I said, you got to take what you get, because a lot of the questions will be answered and you say, that doesn't really pertain to me. And then 5 minutes later, I said, oh, yes, it does. So anyhow, it's kind of funny. We go to the get our uh, do our bring up a pop-up, but instead of being like an alert pop-up, we use it as an HTML, create HTML output. And that's what this one does. And I looked around and I saw a lot of people had like 20 lines of code because if you notice, this is all HTTP code in here. And a lot of them, with HTML code, you can add scripts, JavaScript scripts into it that'll work, inside your HTML. And there was a lot of different things and everything in there. And I finally on Stack Exchange, all I wanted to do was open up that document, that invoice that we created. I wanted to open it up in a big pop-up. And it ended up being one line of code. I mean, it went to two lines because of the size of the, it wrapped around, but it's basically one line of HTML is all I needed. This was another choice that I had, and all this did was bring up a link like a alert box with a link on it, and then you had to click on that link, and then you had to find it it would bring it up in one of your tabs, and you would have to do it. Where this one here just brings it up in a thing in your thing. You can look for the print button if it looks right, do the print thing, and then close it, and you're done. With this, you had to go through and find it up on your tabs and go through all the process, and then it was still up here. But when it's in the pop-up, when you're done with it, you can dismiss it, and it's still saved, but it's not in your tabs, and you don't want to end up with hundreds of tabs that you got to close up. So anyhow, that was what the code was. And then you set the width of your HTML box that you're doing and just, show your media. This video got a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully some people find it useful. Um, I will probably link to the code in in the description eventually. Um, I'll probably put it on GitHub and link to it in the description. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Hope you found something interesting. Have a great day, everybody.